Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Chodesh Tov, Good Chodesh. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of my Rosh Hashiva, Harav El Yeshvei, Harav Eliyahu, Ben Rav Shmuel Leib. Then our learning should be Neshama for his Aliyah. It should be Aliyah for his Neshama. Okay. So we are learning Mishnah Yispeitza, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. Okay. Now, before I start, I want to make sure I'm going to pronounce a word correct. Dovecote, dovecot or dovecot?
Dovecot.
Dovecot? Okay. All right. A dovecot is a birdhouse for doves. Okay? Now, Beis Shammai say, Ein moilichenes hasulam mishoivach l'shoivach. You may not move the ladder from one dovecote to the other. These dovecotes are basically these large birdhouses with different compartments for doves to nest in each compartment. Each dove got its own compartment, and you could have, and it was basically a birdhouse on top of a pole. You could have a number of them, and there was a ladder. If you wanted to go to the dovecote, go to the dovecote and take out a bird, let's say on Yontiv, because you wanted the shechta to eat. So there was a ladder that you'd go up on. Now, there would be one ladder that would be used, or it could be one ladder that would be used from one dovecote to the other dovecote. So Beis Shammai say, Ein moilichenes hasulam mishoivach l'shoivach. You may not move the ladder from one dovecote to the other. Avol mateu mechaloin lachaloin. But you can make it move from one compartment to the other. Meaning the dovecote had different compartments. And you'd move the ladder in the same dovecote from one part to another part. That Beis Shammai say you can do. Ubeis Hillel matirin. And Beis Hillel say that you could even move the ladder from one dovecote to the other. Now, what's the issue here? The issue here is like this. The Bartanura speaks out that if we be talking about, let's say, a regular ladder, and your regular ladder, you need to get up somewhere, okay? And you want to go ahead and move it from one place to the other. And you have a use for it. You need to get up somewhere. Not climbing a tree. You know, there are ladders that were used to get up from the bottom floor to the top floor. Right? Those were your steps. They had ladders. Now, to go ahead and move that ladder from one place to another, and we're talking about Yontif, so you can move it, you can carry it. Right? To move that ladder from one place to another, and I mean not just moving it over in the same place, from one place to the other, everybody agrees you're not allowed to do that on Yontif. Why? It's an issue of Marisayan. It gives the appearance that you possibly may be doing something wrong. Why are you moving a ladder? Ladder is the way you get up to the top floor. If you want to fix your roof, you take the ladder and you move it over. So therefore, if you move the ladder on Yontif, it can present a problem. People are going to think that you are trying to fix your roof. Now, it's not clear to me at that point. I'm assuming it means you're moving it similar to this situation. You're moving it. I'm not sure if that by the halacha here, by a regular ladder, if you're moving it from one part of the building to another, would that have the same problem? Would you have the same suspicion as only from one building to another? I'm not sure. But the point is that if in a case of a regular ladder, everybody agree that you cannot move it on Yontif, that people shouldn't suspect you of moving that ladder to go fix your roof. Okay, everybody agrees to that. Mm-hmm. And the issue here is where we're talking about this ladder, which is the ladder of a dovecote. Now, that's not a regular ladder, right? That's not a regular ladder that you use to get up to your roof. Nonetheless, it is possible, Beis Shammai say, that we're still concerned that if you move that ladder from one dovecote to the other, that people might think as you're moving it, that you're moving it to go fix the roof or to go fix something. And therefore, Beis Shammai say you can't do it. Now, the truth is that there's another step to this, and that is, okay, you could be doing this in public, and you can be doing this in private. It depends where the dovecote is. So now maybe we can say, well, I understand that if you move it in public, people are seeing what you're doing, and they're going to think that you're moving it to go fix your roof. But let's say it's in a private area. It's in my private. I have in my own backyard, privacy. No one sees anything. I've got dovecotes. I like having birdhouses in my backyard, and no one's going to see if I move it from one dovecote to the other. Nonetheless, the halacha is, Beis Shammai say here, and typically this is the halacha, that anything the sages forbade because of maris ayin, anything the sages forbade because people might think when they see you do this, they might suspect you of doing a sin, of doing something wrong, of doing a sin, of transgressing something that you're not allowed to do. You can't even do it in private when nobody sees. He said nobody sees, so what's the problem? No, if you can't do it in public, you can't do it in private. That is the general rule when it comes to these issues. And Beis Shammai say that rule applies here too. Even if the dovecotes are in a private area where nobody sees, you still can't move it. The same way you couldn't move it if it was in public, you can't do it in private. Beis Hillel say, and this is where the whole argument is. Beis Hillel say, you're right. In public, you can't do it. It's going to cause suspicion. You can't do it. Typically, what you can't do in public, you can't do in private. But here, why are you trying to get to these birds? Because you want to take it and shecht it and slaughter it and eat it. That means you're using it for your joy of Yontif. If the reason you're doing it is for your joy of Yontif, the Chachamim suspended, at least in private, the prohibition. Meaning when it's in private, and essentially there is no problem of suspicion. It's just that we don't differentiate between private and public. Here, so that we can enhance your joy, your rejoicing, your joy of Yontif, we would allow you to do it in private, since there is no real suspicion problem there. So Beis Hillel agree that number one, a regular ladder, you can't do it, you can't move it in private, you can't move it in public. Because if you can't do it in public, you can't do it in private. If we're talking about the dovecote, Beis Hillel say, in public, you can't move it from one dovecote to the other. But in private, you could. And that is the point of where Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, that is where they argue. But everybody agrees that if you're moving it just from one window to the other, from one compartment to the other, that there's no problem of suspicion there, because no one's going to think you're moving it to go fix your roof or something. You're moving it from one compartment to the other, and therefore it is not going to be a problem. Okay. Now, the Mishnah continues. Beis Shammai Oimrim. Beis Shammai say, Lo yito, you cannot take any of those doves out of the dovecote to eat it on to shecht it on Shabbos. Let's say a Yontif. I'm sorry. Again, here we're talking about, you're not moving the ladder in any problematic way. You're going up the ladder. You want to go ahead and take a bird. So Beis Shammai say you cannot take it unless you shook it from before Yontif. Beis Hillel say, before Yontif, he can stand there and say, I'm taking this one, I'm taking that one. The issue here is like this. These birds are muktzah. Why are they muktzah? Muktzah means, as we said yesterday, muktzah means after it's something you're not expecting to use on Shabbos or Yontif, that's considered, that the Chachamim say that's set aside. You can't use that. If we weren't expecting to use it, that means it's not ready to be used, and you can't use it on Shabbos or Yontif. Now, these birds, although they're in the dovecote, they can fly away, right? Or they can kind of hop out and get away. Because actually, if they could fly, then you'd have a problem of trapping if you took it on Yontif. So we're talking about, these are not birds that can really fly. They're kind of young, they hop around. So if you wanted to get it, it wouldn't be a big deal to get it, and therefore it's not trapping. However, they still could hop out and get away. And therefore, the problem is that since they wander away, you don't count on them to be there on Yontif. It's common enough that they hop out and go away and come back. But they hop away, but since they do kind of wander off, typically it's common for them to wander off. Therefore, you don't count on them to use them on Yontif, and therefore they're muktzah, because like you say, you're not expecting to use them. So what do you got to now? But there is a way you can make it not muktzah, right? You can designate it. If you designate it before Shabbos or before Yontif, I shouldn't say Shabbos, before Yontif, you designate it. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take that animal on Yontif. I'm gonna shecht it. Okay, so maybe that can make it no more muktzah, right? If the whole reason it's muktzah is because I'm not expecting to use it, but now I basically say I am going to use it, then there would be no problem of muktzah. I've designated it for use. There should be no muktzah problem. Beis Shammai say that's not enough. Just to go ahead and say, I'm going to take that bird tomorrow. I'm going to take that bird tomorrow. Beis Shammai said it's not enough. Why is it not enough? Because Beis Shammai had the following concern. Beis Shammai was concerned that the next day, so you pointed to that, I'm taking that bird tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow you go for the bird, and as you're touching it, you said, I'm not going to shech this bird. You're going to change your mind, and you're not going to shech it. Now, if you change your mind and you handle the bird, then that means that basically you handled it for no reason. It's considered, it was a tircha, it was an effort that wasn't needed. And that you can't do on Yantif. So Beis Shammai say we are concerned that if you just designate it by mouth or intent, then we're afraid you may change your mind after you've handled it, and therefore that means that was an unnecessary effort, and that we don't want you to do on Yantif. But Beis Shammai say, but if before Yantif I take it and I shake it, and I really take it and I do something with it, that means you've committed enough. That kind of act makes you committed enough that we're not concerned tomorrow you're going to change your mind. Beis Hillel say, even if you go ahead and say, I'm going to use that bird tomorrow, we're not concerned you're going to change your mind. And therefore, according to him, it's enough. Bartenura speaks out that this whole argument is specific to certain birds. In this dovecote, teach about something about raising doves, okay? If you have this dovecote, you started it, okay? The first birds that are born from that dovecote, they're special. Actually, their mother is very attached to them. And therefore, they leave it around. The Gemara explains that this dispute concerns only the first two doves hatched in the dovecote that season. Sorry, for that season. It's not ever. For that season. These two doves are usually left in the dovecote to keep their mother company. Thus, even after saying that he will take them, a person might well change his mind and leave them there. For this reason, Beis Shammai ruled that he must shake them before Yantif. As for doves hatched after the first two, all agree that it suffices to say that he will take them. So the only time Beis Shammai argue and say you got to shake them it's the first two doves that were hatched for that season in this dovecote, because those are the ones that you typically leave around to be with the mother. Those are the ones who are afraid that even after you said I'm going to use them, you'll change your mind. However, all the other ones, we're not concerned about that. Have a wonderful day. A good Chodesh Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
My question is, what can you eat